This is Dr. Andy Yates on the Incongruous channel, and today we're going to be talking about becoming a whole human. And we're looking at it from a kind of therapeutic or therapist's perspective, because I'm a retired holistic healing therapist, and that would be the perspective that I and my fellow practitioners will be using to approach a client. But of course, these are complementary therapies that I'm going to be talking about here. So they're kind of secondary to medical practices, because modern medicine's made a lot of progress and medical practice has made a lot of progress. So really, it's a matter of going to see your medical doctor first when you have an issue. But complementary therapies can certainly complement most therapies or most things that the medical practice can do. And it can ensure that you're looking at the whole person. Because you know, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And the reason for that is if you've got parts and they're all together like this, the communication between those parts and the interaction is sometimes not taken into account. So rather than doing this, you should be doing that. And that's the idea of holistic therapy, whole human therapy. Okay, so it provides supports that looks at the whole person and considers their mind, which includes the emotional, the social and that kind of thing, also the physical, and then energy or spiritual well-being. It's viewing things as a whole rather than the individual parts, as I explained, and it's studying and understanding the whole person or system rather than focusing on the individual components. Now, this is kind of part one of becoming a whole human. And there is a part two, which I've already created, which I'll be uploading later. And that one looks at it from the perspective of a whole human, but from the perspective of human needs. Okay? And it's a longer documentary. See, if you look at the NHS, right, you've got the general practitioner, and the general practitioner's in the middle of all of this. You go to the general practitioner for multiple things, and he looks at the whole of you, and you'll say, oh, this hurts, that hurts, I got a problem with this, I got a problem with that, whatever. And he'll look at that, and then he'll provide whole person care. And what he'll do is treat the common medical conditions, because that's within his scope. He'll also refer patients to hospitals or other medical services for specific specialist type issues or for urgent issues, obviously. The thing with this is, though, because referral to a specialist immediately takes the client, the patient, out of that holistic idea, that whole person idea. Because when you go and see a cardiologist and you've got a problem with your heart, but you've also got a pain in your throat, for example, the cardiologist will look at your heart and do a very good job, very skillful, but they won't refer to this. They'll say, oh, you need to see an ENT specialist or a respiratory specialist. And then you've got to make an appointment. And you know that with our current NHS, all those kind of things take a lot of time. If you can get an appointment and then if you can find somewhere to park, which is what I had recently. So, okay. And then the other problem on top of that is the lack of resources in the NHS. NHS people are great. They do the very best they can with the resources they've got. But if you've only got half the resources you need, you can only do half the job. It's as simple as that. 60% if you go above and beyond, and you can't expect any more from those people than that. So, okay. So let's have a look at this tacky diagram I produced. There you are. And that gives you an idea of the way we approach it as a triangle. The mind, body, energy triangle, the mind, energy, body triangle, the energy, mind, body triangle, all joined up together. That's the idea. So what you can consider here is that triangle is the whole person. And you can, as a therapist, you can approach whatever issues they have either from the perspective of the mind or perspective of the body or the perspective of the energy, right? Doesn't matter. You've got all these different options, which is very useful. So anyway, let's go through it a bit. So looking at the mind, when you're stressed, when you're anxious, angry, happy, or even loving, your body reacts physically. So there's the connection, mind to body. Your thoughts and emotions affect the release of chemicals in the body, neurochemicals and other chemicals. And a couple of examples of that is dopamine, which is related to pleasure, and serotonin, which is related to mood. And I'm being fairly basic here, so don't kind of trip me up. Oh, it does more than that. Yeah, it probably does. And these chemicals affect the body. So chemicals, and I mean, there's an example of cortisol. Now, cortisol is essential for the human body, but if it's up or if it's down, it can enhance or suppress the immune system. That's the idea of how it works. If you get an infection in your arm and you're treated with corticosteroids, then that will suppress the immune system in that area. Now that's a good thing, because then the inflammation and all of that will go down. Probably it will heal quicker. However, in that area, you have a suppressed immune system, so you're now open to other problems from other sources. And we've seen problems with that before. Big problems where steroids were not considered for use until later on. I don't want to get into it, but perhaps you understand what I'm talking about. Doesn't matter anyway. But the point is, the mind affects the energy levels as well in the whole system. Now, the state of your body affects your mind if you're feeling, for example, good about yourself. So if your body feels good, then your mind feels good. When your body feels good, your energy state is up. But of course, the contrary is always so true. When your body doesn't feel good, then your energy state may well be down. Turning over the page. Your body's metabolism, in other words, the way it processes everything, food and blood, and lymphatics, the way all of it works, and the base rate of that, and your stress response, all play crucial roles in the energy system, whether that energy is up or down. Now, looking at energy. Energy refers to electrical impulses in electromagnetic waves that affect our brain and our body functions. So there's a connection straight away. But of course, there's other ways of looking at energy. It's the amount of stamina, of vigor, or get up and go to engage in particular activities, right? The human energy field, and we're getting a little bit more into the esoteric side of things, is sometimes called the aura, but sometimes it's called other things. But there is energy in the body. And in every aspect of our existence, it affects it. And that includes the body, the mind, the emotions, the energy system, all of it. So it's all connected. And that's important. As a therapist, we would assess the client and determine which is the best way to do therapy with them. Of course, if they wanted some particular thing, we'd help them with that. But if you had a client saying, you know, which way should I go? And they're very much in their head, sort of a very logical, analytical type of person, we might start with the mind. If they're more sort of body-wise, a touchy-feely type person, you might start with the body. And if they're more into the energetic side of things, the chakras and things like that, you might start with energy. But all of the things affect all of the others. The whole thing is a whole human being. And I mention this really because if you are very much into your mind, you may be, is it a good word, neglecting your body and your energy system, because they're important to feed your mind. You've heard of things called brain food, and stuff like that, which is really things that affect your metabolism, that affects your nutrition and so on, to provide you with the energy to make your mind work efficiently. You get it? You see, it's all kind of tied in together. So this would be a holistic healing therapist, the way they would approach a client from the mind-body energy perspective, the mind-body energy triangle. So if we go back to looking at the mind, well, what kind of therapy might you use for the mind? Well, there's hypnotherapy is one. That's one of my favorites. Basically getting people into a trance state, dealing with perhaps specific issues that may have, making suggestions to them at deep levels of the mind that may change their perspective on certain things. Guided meditation, where you can take them through a journey in their very relaxed mind to take them to some point where they achieve something or they gain something, and that can help them in their regular life. NLP, which is neuro thinking, linguistic language, programming, which includes the past, present and future. So NLP, neuro linguistic programming. And the idea of that is to use the language of the client, that is the language in which they think, to address their programming. So you're not programming, they are already programmed. So you look at their program and see if that's affecting them in a way they don't want, negatively, and so on. And then use the way they think and the language they use to think to address any issues that may be found. Very powerful. They call it pseudoscience, and it is or it isn't, and it's had some issues in the past. But combined with other things like hypnotherapy, very, very useful. Okay. So going to the body. Well, body is perhaps the more obvious one because massage is the one at the top of that. And there's lots and lots and lots of different types of massage. One example is therapeutic massage, where a client will come to you and say, or me, you, and say, hey, I've got a sore shoulder. And then the therapist will look for what's wrong in the shoulder. If it's bones or joints, there's not really a lot a therapist can do, massage therapists can do about that, except flex it and move it and make sure it's loose. But by changing the tension, the relaxation or the tightness of the muscles around the joint, that may provide a better way for the joint to settle back, ball and socket, so it can move more easily. That may provide more relaxation in the joint and allow it to heal, all those kind of things. But massage therapy is generally manipulation of soft tissues and then a very light touch over the hard things like bones, right? And that's the way it's done. So that's therapeutic massage. Deep tissue massage. Deep tissue massage is wonderful because it gets right down into the body. One thing I will say about that, and it's been my experience and other people's experience, that when you do deep tissue, you can't just go in and do deep tissue. You've got to loosen, warm, relax the muscles. In a sense, the muscles have to let you in to do deep tissue. And in fact, when you get experienced at it, especially with the larger muscles, you can actually put your fingers into the client's muscle, push into it, and you can feel the muscle in front of your fingers letting go, relaxing, releasing, allowing you in. And then you can let your fingers just glide through as the muscle lets you in. It's very cool. And it's very, very nice. And it shouldn't be bruising. You shouldn't get, the patient shouldn't get off the table and go, oh my God, oh. No, it should be, oh, that felt great. That's really good. You went so deep. It was fantastic. That's what we're looking for. And then there's other things, and just one example here. Hot stone therapy. Marvellous. The stones are put into like a cooker, like a boiler, and taken up to a hot heat, but not too hot. And then because they're a particular type of stone, they retain a lot of that heat, and they're put on various places in the body to bring heat to the body. That stimulates the body's resources, stimulates blood flow, stimulates lymphatic flow, relaxes muscles, does all that good thing. And you can actually then use the stones with some oil to do some massage using the edge of the stone, the flat of the stone, whatever. Very good stuff. Okay. So when we look at energy, what kind of therapies can you do for energy? Well, my favorite for that is Reiki. And Reiki is the principle of believing or understanding that there is energy in the universe and that it can be channeled through a practitioner or a therapist. But the therapist or the practitioner doesn't do any healing. They just act as a hollow bone, as the natives say, a tube through which the energy comes, and then they help to direct it onto the client. And the client could be fully clothed. The client could be partially clothed and appropriately covered with a sheet. And you just either put your hands within a few inches, 4 inches they say, or you can actually put your hands directly on the client. Another one that's used is emotional freedom technique. Now, emotional freedom technique is very interesting. And this relates to kind of like acupuncture, acupressure. So let's see if I can do this nicely. So if I go to here, and then I change my bit of paper over here, I'm useless at this. Totally useless. And you know what? I don't care. See what I got. Not much. That's not good, is it? That's not much good at all. Oh dear, oh dear. This is meant to be, oh, there it goes. This is meant to be an acupressure or an acupuncture diagram. There's two back and front. That's what you're looking at there. And I just wanted to show how complex it is. This is an oriental or esoteric study whereby all these points that you can see on that diagram are particular points where they're energy centers or their lymphatic flow centers, and they are stimulated by either inserting a needle, which is acupuncture, and generally that would be considered to be a body therapy, or they're stimulated with your fingers. That is acupressure. And you can also do acupressure looking for trigger points. And trigger points are very interesting because you've usually got some in your bottom, in your butt, right? In those big old gluteal muscles there. And there's usually one there, and you can kind of apply pressure there, and then the client will go, oh, that's sharp. And then you apply pressure to the point within the client's tolerance, and gradually it goes away. And my theory of this is it's drawing energy to that point, plus lymphatic system, plus increasing circulation and so on, and carrying out a healing process. It's also relaxing everything at that point. So this is body therapy and energy therapy combined. It's rather cool, isn't it? Yeah. So anyway, that's the point of the diagram, was to let you see that there are lots and lots of these points, and they could be addressed, and you can see a couple there on the gluteals. And these are the ones that in America we used to get a lot of it, and they used to call it fat wallet syndrome, because Americans men had a habit of getting a wallet with 17 credit cards in and stuffed full of cash and this kind of thing, and putting in the back pocket of their jeans, and then getting in their truck and sitting on it. So it's acting and pushing that pressure through on their buttock. And then they come to us. They go, oh, my back. And you get in there and they go, oh, yes, that's the place. Very useful therapy. But it's all about this combination of body and energy, you see. Okay. So let's see if I can be sexy again and just switch that off back to me. Hello. And then go back to the diagram over here. And this is all guesswork. Let's put it about there and see what happens. Not much good. This is technology. This is high tech for me. But it's good. I like it. So I'm going to work on this. I'll be better next time. See if I can get it straight. There we are. Something like that. Okay. So the mind-body energy triangle. So we talked about Reiki a little bit, how that works, working on the mind and the energy. And another one is the emotional freedom technique. An emotional freedom technique, we looked at that acupuncture diagram. An emotional technique, in its simplest form, involves tapping on those acupuncture points, but you can also use some kind of a mantra or some kind of a statement about how well you feel or what you feel about yourself and so on. And because you repeat it over and over and over, then it becomes something that goes into your mind. So you might say, I know I'm drinking too much. See, this is an acupressure point up here. I know I'm drinking too much, and I deeply and completely love and accept myself. I know I'm drinking too much. Another 2, but I completely love and accept myself. I know I'm drinking too much, but I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And you go around a circuit and you do that a few times. And if you did that every day for a month, you'd end up doing almost 1,000 of these pressures all over. And it does make a difference. Some people are very surprised. The only trick of it is because you've got to do it every day. Well, not every day, but because you've got to do it regularly. And because you've got to do all these things like this, and you can get instructions that explains that to you, people don't stick to it. Which I always think is a bit like you go to a general practitioner and says, oh, you've got an itis, here's some antibiotics for you, and you don't take them. And then you say, that doctor was rubbish. I went to see him, he gave me a bottle of pills, I didn't bother taking them, and I've still got the problem. Ah, really? Well, you didn't follow the instructions. Anyway, so that is EFT. And as far as the whole human's concerned, one I like is a thing called cranial sacral therapy. Now, there are different perspectives about cranial sacral therapy. My perspective is that by holding the spine, so it goes from the sacrum, which is the bit at the top of the legs, that big flat bone at the back. It's actually 5 bones that are fused. But the one at the base of your spine, the very, very base of your spine, and then up the spine to the back of the neck. And what you're doing basically is you're allowing some space to occur in there in the spine between the vertebrae, which allows the cerebral spinal fluid to move in between and cause all that kind of relaxation. The muscles around it relax and everything like this. From an energy perspective, what you are doing is opening up the flow of energy up the spine from the sacrum to the back of the neck. And there's various holes by which you relax muscles in those areas, which are often not relaxed, because in the neck, back of the neck here, I think there's something like 26 different attachments in there. And they're rarely fully relaxed. Even when you're asleep, you tend not to relax your neck, and you sometimes wake up in the morning and go, oh, my neck's stiff. Must have slept in a funny position. Well, this allows those to be stretched and then relaxed to a longer and more relaxed position. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. Try it. And then another one is basic relaxation. However you do that, whether you use things like mindfulness, a type of meditation. Now, people might think, well, that's woo-woo and new age, isn't it? No, it's not. It's really concentrating yourself into the present moment. One of the ways that's taught is by concentrating on the feeling of the breath coming inside and out of your nose. But you could sit cross-legged in your front room with some nice music in the background, and you could just sit there and try and keep bringing your thoughts back to yourself, to the present moment. As I said, and a trick to do that is to just concentrate on the breathing going in and out of your nose. And if your mind drifts off somewhere, when you realize you've done that, bring it back to the feeling, the sound of the breath coming in and out of your nose. But you can also go for a walk in the park and do exactly the same thing, being in the present moment. You're not in some zombie trance state. You're just walking around, feeling inside yourself, feeling everything about yourself, the feel of your feet touching the ground, the warmth of the sun on your skin, the feeling, perhaps if you have to keep doing it, keeping your mind centered, breath through your nose, all of that. Relaxation. It's wonderful. And any kind of relaxation lets the muscles relax and replenish, lets the mind calm down, get rid of that cortisol, or at least get it to a level by homeostasis, they call it, get it to a level which is what it's meant to be, not too high, not too low, Goldilocks, right? All of that, just getting yourself back into a nice, normal, calm, relaxed, neutral position. It's lovely. And relaxation can do that. And there we are. And this diagram can help with that thought that, you know, if you concentrate too much on your body and everything, don't forget to spend some time with your mind. Don't forget to spend some time with your energy, and vice versa. Anywhere around in the triangle, because that triangle, from a therapeutic perspective, represents a whole human. And you are a whole human. So you might as well use every part of your whole human self. And as I said, the next one that's coming talks about human needs and goes into that in a little bit more detail, and how perhaps, if you want to, you can expand yourself further from where you are now. Can't be bad, can it? All right, that's all there is to say. My name's Dr. Andy Yates. This is the Incongruous Channel, and you guys, please take care.